LinkedIn company pages are dead.
Honestly, if I had £1 every time I've heard that or read that on LinkedIn, I'd be a little bit richer right now.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why people say that, but
Yeah, I do get it.
they're not dead. The majority of pages are dead, and it's for a few reasons. I think the main reason is that personal profiles they get more traction. It's
And I
just
think that's due to the way the algorithm works.
yeah,
now
and
on
the
LinkedIn,
increase in personal branding.
Yeah.
People want to see people. It's the
Mm.
highest performing content, so it makes sense why people would say it's dead because they get lower reach.
Yeah, and it's a vicious cycle as well, I think, because the more the algorithm preferred personal profiles, the more people focused on them and stopped caring about the personal pages, the company pages. So it became like a vicious cycle.
But do you think that means that you just shouldn't have anything on your
Absolutely
company
not.
page?
No. I think it's a huge mistake that a lot of companies are making now, neglecting their company page, because it's still part of your company image at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's still a social platform. People are going to look it up because it shows up in people's work experience. I know I visit company pages all the time, especially when I'm trying to reach out to people. I'll go on their profile and then I'll go on the company page to get and this is a great way to look at it, right? I go on the company page to kind of get a quick idea of what the company does.
Yeah.
So why would you neglect it?
Yeah, I guess from like a employee point of view as well, if you were going to work for a company, you would look on their company profile.
Yeah.
So you've got to think of what those people would want to see from the company profile as well.
Yeah, true.
So why is it not dead?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say they're dead. For me, the way I see it, the LinkedIn company page is like and I think you've said this term before, right? It's like a mini content hub.
Yeah.
Would you agree? It's still a way to showcase your team's expertise. It's a way to put yourself out there. And also, we need to keep in mind that not everyone wants a personal brand.
Yeah, that's the tough thing now, is that personal brands have become so big that personal branding experts have positioned it as like the only way to grow. Whereas if you're like a micro business, fair enough, like your company page isn't going to make an insane impact on your marketing, especially in terms of like content distribution. It's going to be easier always for a founder or a CEO of a business to start posting on their personal profiles like content. It just makes so much more sense. But the company page still plays a big role in distributing that content, especially if you have employees that don't want to post.
Yeah.
It's a great way to create bite-sized pieces of content that lead into bigger pieces of content on your website, or if you have like a YouTube channel, or if you have a podcast, or if you just have like general blogs on your website or white papers or anything. So I think that kind of leads us into the next question, which would be,
how do you make it work?
How do you make it work? Yeah. How do you make a company page work?
And I think this is important because company pages are known to have like lower reach compared to personal profiles. So what would you say are some, like, what would you post on a company page, or like what are some content types, content ideas that you would do to ensure that, you know, a company page is successful?
I think there's two primary angles that people need to focus on. The first one is the high value content. I know value is thrown around and value is subjective depending on who you're distributing to or how valuable you think your content is. But it's to have like valuable content on your page regularly. And that doesn't mean like posting a unique take that's 1,000 words in one post. It means creating micro content, easy to consume content, bite-sized pieces regularly.
Yeah.
So taking white papers, taking blogs, creating statistics, quotes, articles, infographics off of these longer pieces of content, and then using the micro piece of content as like a avenue into the longer piece of content.
I agree.
But it needs to be like high. You can't just
value.
post generic takes that everyone
or whatever comes to mind.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of issue with company pages, that it's so unstructured that a lot of marketers just start posting everything and anything without like a strict content plan on their company page. What's actually going to be shareable. So that kind of like leads me into the next part about the employee side of the content page.
Yeah, and we talk about this a lot.
Yeah, so what we've started to do with our clients, we manage 5 LinkedIn company pages. On every single page now, we focus primarily on using their employees as much as possible to extract value from their content. So say if they have like a white paper or a blog, we'll get employees to give their own takes on these pieces of content, or speak about these content either in like just a normal interview with like a faceless interview where we just record audio, or we'll do interviews about them extracting pieces of value from that content, speaking about it, having a take, and then using that content on their company pages so that it's shareable. The employee that is speaking about it is going to want to share it on their own page if they don't have a personal brand anyway. Other employees are more willing to share it. And then even people outside of your company are going to be interested in it. Maybe not necessarily to share it. Maybe they'll share it internally in their own business.
For sure,
But just having a face, it takes the people that don't have personal brands, because it's so hard to get employees to actually post their own content. So you can do, and it's an introduction into a personal brand for your employees.
And I think there's another aspect here when it comes to this employee generated content, basically, is that you actually humanize the company. Because I think traditionally people, when it came to LinkedIn company pages, people used to do kind of like, you know, what we used to see, because we analyze pages a lot now, and we usually see announcements or like graphics or statistics and stuff like that, which are great, but you don't see faces. And what we've seen with the work that we've done is that this type of posts with employees, where, you know, they speak in an interview, or, you know, there's an image of them with something they've said, like, or an insight, they've had the best performance.
Yeah, for sure. The just having a face to the content, because obviously a lot of the content that's created by businesses doesn't have a face. If it's a white paper, there's not going to have, you might have quotes from people, but it's not going to be a person-based piece of content. Where if you can humanize that content that you have, if you have statistics or reports and you have somebody speaking about these statistics, it creates its own content piece that's shareable on a company page, rather than a stock image of how great your business is, or something like that. And that's the big issue that a lot of these companies have, is that it's really easy now to use ChatGPT to create content that's just copy and paste, whether that's text, whether that's graphics, where you can just throw it in Canva and have like a basic carousel template that doesn't mean anything to anyone. There's still value in that type of content, but when you're putting a face to the content, it's so much more impactful.
And I think we're not even reinventing the wheel, right? It's basically the same thing that they've been posted. It's just structured and framed differently to where it becomes more attractive and more engaging. Because if you think about it, when you talk about quotes from, or like insights from employees, people have been I've seen pages, they post this, but they post it as like text on a background, and it's very hard to engage with it. Whereas if you have that person saying it on video, or like talk about that specific insight on video or an audio, or it's a lot more, it's easier to digest, you know, it's easier to engage with. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just restructuring the way this content is framed and posted and designed. And would you agree?
I agree. I think it's also important to have a variety of content. So you're not going to want to plaster your employees' images all over your company page 5 times a week. It's annoying. People don't want that. Employees don't want that.
Some employees might want
maybe
superstars.
Maybe, but that's why it's important to have like a variety of different pieces of content. So it's good to have those, a mix between longer and shorter pieces of content on LinkedIn company pages, as well as the just employee general content as well.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's a few ways to do this. So it's like founder POVs that you could also integrate into your content strategy. There's behind the scenes posts, because they give like an insight into your company culture. So if you're going to events, you're going to want to be visual events. Those are some of the highest performing posts. Being at events, showcasing that you're at an event, giving like a post event update. They perform well.
We've seen that perform well across literally all of our clients' pages.
Yeah.
So and I think it's also because employees are more likely to engage with that type of post as well.
Yeah.
So, it's when we used to talk about this in the past, it's called like the spiderweb effect, because your company page has like, say, 1,000 followers, but then when 5 of your employees engage with it, it gets shown in their connections feeds. So then obviously from 1,000 potential impressions, you get to like 5,000. So these posts have like served such a specific purpose, these event shows and all these key insights, because they've just been very successful.
Yeah, and it doesn't always have to be just about your content. Like, you don't have to be posting just about your content. That's why I said like the behind the scenes stuff is great, because it's an insight into your company culture. You've got to think that you're hitting people from different angles. You're going to be hitting buyers with like the real valuable content, what you're doing, how you're doing it differently, your point of differentiation, just in general, your unique insights, why you're the best at what you do. And then you're also hitting potential employees, future employees as well, partners, collaborations and stuff. Just with the internal stuff, the behind the scenes stuff, going to events, stuff like that, you reach these people.
Yeah, but I think this often gets overlooked, the hiring part, because, smaller businesses probably they only focus on lead generation, but they overlook the whole hiring part and the company culture, which is really important to show. I think even if you're not doing it for the purpose of hiring, showcasing your company culture says a lot about who you are as a business.
It comes back to your goals as well, what you're trying to get out of it. If you're
That's what I was getting to,
a new startup, you've got 2 employees, you don't really have much of a company culture to start with.
So then in this case, what would you say would be like the ideal approach when it comes to LinkedIn company pages?
So I think before we go into the company pages, if I was to have an ideal approach, it would be to have 1 to 3 executives with personal brands as like a non-negotiable. Your founder, your CFO, both posting on social media, on LinkedIn, having a personal brand 3 to 5 times a week as a non-negotiable. And then you have one executive that's like a super fan, that's like super knowledgeable about your business. They understand buyers. They're also sharing like their unique journey, but it needs to be from what we call like a super fan employee. Because
someone who's loyal to the company. And
because they'll be more willing to be open about what they're doing. You're not trying to force someone into a personal brand. So I think initially that is going to be the foundation. That's going to have the highest reach. But then you're going to have all these other employees and all this other information and insights in-house that you want to share. But your employees aren't going to want to put their voice out there.
So how do you do it? Hard. How do you incentivize it?
So there's a few ways that we can do it. We'll go back to what we said about just introducing them to the content. So if you have pieces of content that your content team are producing, longer pieces of content, you can get them to comment on that content, whether it's voice, or you can start off with like written style content, create it for your company page, and then allow your employee to like share it out there. So it's
to their personal profile.
It becomes like a stepping stone for them into sharing content.
And I think also when it comes to getting more contributions from the team, because some of the challenges, and this is important to talk about as well, right? Some of the challenges we've had with our clients is that they're so busy with the actual work that they don't have time to dedicate to content creation or even providing insights. So what we've done, and I don't know, this is something that can be implemented by other agencies or other companies as well, is that we've asked, and it's really a simple requirement. We've asked our clients whenever they go anywhere, events, lunches with partners, etc., 2-3 pictures.
If they're comfortable with it.
If they're comfortable,
sometimes
of course,
not, yeah.
And if they're allowed to share, of course. But it's very simple, like 2-3 pictures and then 2-3 sentences, and then we'll make a post out of it. And that has worked really well so far with our clients because, they've kind of implemented it in their teams as a rule. And it's become also like a game as well, I think. They make it fun internally. So, okay, let's see whose post gets most traction, or, you need to take 3 photos, or I don't know, take 5 photos and you'll get free coffee for a month or something. I don't know. But it's just making it fun and also making it easy for people to do this, for employees to do this.
That's one side. So the events and the internal stuff, the behind the scenes stuff is the first point. The second point is creating just micro pieces of content from larger pieces of content that are engaging. You can create them into video kind of short creatives, videos, quotes, that sort of stuff, even text posts.
And
we've
it's
been
so
using a lot of
easy,
text posts based off of, so we take a large piece of content, segment it into its key areas, and then create text posts that are written in a similar way to how people with personal brands format their
and
posts.
They've worked well, right?
They work really well, yeah. And they're
Surprising.
shareable. They have like a way higher impression count than other styles of posts.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, all of these companies, they have so much internal information. Like they sit on a gold mine of content.
Yeah.
They have a lot of the companies that we've spoken to as well. They have tons of blogs and they do nothing with them. And it's so easy to take a large piece of content and chop it down into smaller bits of content. And then you've got,
It's especially true the thought leadership kind of blogs, because these aren't necessarily, people aren't going searching for these terms in these blogs. So with the thought leadership pieces, those are the best pieces to break down into micro content to post on your company pages for sure.
Yeah. We've done some really great work when it comes to LinkedIn company pages. And I think we've managed to be quite creative, even with the really serious businesses. Some of the stuff, like, kudos to you, some of the stuff you've done for some of our clients, I was really impressed with. And the thing is, like, it's even simple stuff like turning a boring carousel into something like slightly more animated and easier to digest, right? Bite size.
Yeah, you've just got to think about the way that people are consuming content on the platform.
Yeah.
So your content's going to appear less often, which is why we want to focus employees and shareable content as much as possible, so that we're reaching as many people as possible.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is that it's still vital that you have, a good content strategy for your LinkedIn page. Because if I was to ask you now, you want to work with a company, for example, you want to partner up with someone, and you go to their LinkedIn page and you see they only have, like, their last post was in 2010. Doesn't that raise questions?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on the business, but yeah, it does.
I find it sus.
Yeah,
it's suspicious
for sure. That's why consistency is also super important.
Yeah.
We're working with B2B businesses. Sales cycles are long.
Yeah.
People are constantly consuming content, and you need to be appearing consistently in front of these people. And that's also another point I wanted to make, is that the engagement on the posts is still important, but it's not the most important part of the content. It's being in front of those people with regular content that's engaging and that people want to see.
But I think a lot of the people on LinkedIn as well are lurkers. Like they won't engage, because if you remember when we our last feedback round with our client, when it came to LinkedIn company content, it was that they've been getting so much feedback from their partners and clients saying that, like, oh my God, we've been seeing your content so much and it's really good and blah, 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 blah. But they don't engage with it.
Most people don't engage. You
Yeah.
think that how many people have we worked with on LinkedIn that we've seen their
Yeah.
content a lot? A lot of the mentors
I don't
we've
even
worked
engage
with.
with them.
Yeah, I didn't engage with anyone before I started posting on my personal page.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I think, you know, people get stuck on certain things like, oh, content's not done well because it doesn't have engagement, but it's important to have it. There's no doubt. Like, and we've seen it work. It's harder to attribute for sure, but we've seen it work. We've had great feedback from our clients on this. So shouldn't be neglected.
Definitely not.
Yeah. Okay. That's it for today. Would encourage everyone to start.
Do it right. Be consistent. Be different. Have a plan. Have metrics. Have ways to track the performance of your content.
Absolutely. And if you want to talk more about this, you know where to find us. We're on LinkedIn every single day, literally.
Way too much.
And then if anyone wants to email us, we'll put our details below.
Cool.
Sounds good. See you in the next episode.